Backpackers are always looking for ways to make all of their gear have multiple uses. But did you know that you can do the same thing with the food that you carry in your backpack? Today's recipe, double duty applesauce rolls, coming up. These spicy cinnamon ginger applesauce rolls are great to eat while you're on the trail on the move, but in camp, adding a little hot water to them turns them into a soft, warm, delicious applesauce that goes great with any meal. So let's go through the ingredients, equipment, and cooking instructions that you'll need so that you can make this easy and tasty dish for when you go out on the trail next time. These ingredients will make about 6 portions of applesauce to have as a meal, or several fruit roll-up type sheets, depending on how many you like to eat at a time. We'll need 64 ounces of unsweetened applesauce, 2 tablespoons of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of powdered ginger, 2 tablespoons of dark brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of lemon juice, 2 cups of raisins, and 2 cups of walnuts. The raisins and walnuts are for adding later on the trail to consume as applesauce. Other than a saucepan for our initial cooking, the only thing that we'll need in the way of specialized equipment is a dehydrator. The cooking portion of this is about as simple as it gets. We're just going to add all the ingredients except for the raisins and the walnuts to a saucepan and then heat them on a medium-low heat to combine all the ingredients and dissolve the solids like the brown sugar, and to make sure that things like the cinnamon and the ground ginger get distributed and all the flavors can meld. And that's all there is to it. After combining our ingredients by warming them in the saucepan, we set it aside, allowing it to cool, and then we're going to add it to our fruit roll trays so that we can put it into our dehydrator. Adding the applesauce to the fruit roll trays is pretty simple. You just want to make sure that you layer it on there about 1/4 inch or less in thickness. After finishing smoothing it out evenly, again no more than 1/4 inch thick, it's ready to go into the dehydrator. Set the dehydrator for about 140 degrees and put the timer for 12 hours. After about 6 to 8 hours, it'll be ready to flip over and continue on for the remainder of the time until the fruit rolls are ready to go. After about 6 hours or so, I checked on these and they really were still too moist, so I put them back into the dehydrator for a few more hours, and now they seem like they are just about perfect. Every dehydrator is a little different, so you'll get to know yours and your environment and whether it needs longer or less time than in the example I'm using here. But these are pretty good. I still feel that this is a little bit sticky here, so I'm going to put it back in for a couple more hours, and then I think we can call this a done deal. I've finished off the batch and removed each sheet from the dehydrator trays, and now it's ready for cutting into portions and bagging. I'm going to start off with about 25% of one of these 14 by 14 squares, and we'll rehydrate that and see about how much that comes out to be. Everybody likes different size portioning, so this will give you at least some kind of ballpark to work with. Next, we just take the sheet and put it in the freezer bag so that we can use it for rehydration on the trail. It's as simple as that. I'll reserve these larger size pieces in these quart size bags for meals, but I'll usually take some of these and I'll trim them down into smaller pieces, and I'll put them into small bags that easily fit into my hip pocket of my backpack so that I can use those for while I'm on the move during the day on the trail. To prepare the walnuts, sure, you can buy them from the store already prepared, but I prefer to toast them myself. And to do that, we're going to take the shelled walnuts and just chop them up into smaller pieces to make them more manageable. You can put them on a cookie sheet and put them in the oven for about 5 to 10 minutes on 375, but I find that I have better control by putting it on about medium or just past that in a frying pan. And the reason that I prefer to do it in the frying pan is because this is the kind of thing that involves more than just time. You really want to get a look at this, and also you can really smell exactly how they're proceeding along, because when they're just about done, they release a really fragrant, delicious, toasty kind of a scent to them. Now you'll see that I'm putting them in the frying pan here so that they are in a single row. It's been a minute or two now, and I'm starting to already smell that these are releasing their flavor. So I'm just going to rotate them around a little bit. And you'll see that as it goes through some time, it's going to start to brown a little, and you'll start to get that toasty smell coming from it, and that means you are getting in the right direction. The trick to it is to just make sure that you take it off before it starts to get too brown and before you start seeing for real smoke coming, because then you'll have burned the batch. These are almost getting there. They're starting to become a toastier, browner color, and that is exactly what we're shooting for. And this is the time where you want to sort of start to keep it moving so you can finish it off evenly while not letting the smaller pieces get too well done. I doubt that you can pick the sound up on the camera, but it's just slightly sizzling. So that tells me that these are pretty much up, and there comes the first little bits of smoke. So we are done, and we're just going to take this and transfer it to a bowl for cooling and bagging with your raisins, and then you can either eat them as a separate snack on the trail, or you can add them to your applesauce and have it that way. Rehydration is a very simple process that just involves using the quart-size bag with the applesauce strip in it and a cozy. And then for this size portion, I usually boil about a third to maybe closer to a half a cup of water. And I'll start off by adding less than the full amount, more like a third of a cup or so, into the applesauce. And I'll test it after a while and then add some more water if I need it as it's rehydrating. Now we just add the water. Now here's the thing about the water. You really want to add a little bit at a time and kind of give it a check. And we're going to mix it around a little bit. And then we're going to place the entire thing in our cozy. And we're going to close it up and give it about, oh, this goes pretty quickly, but about 5 minutes, maybe a little bit less. After a few minutes, we'll open up the cozy. Oh yeah, that looks pretty good. I don't know how well you can see it on camera, but you don't want it to be too watery. And if at this point it needs a little bit more water to be added to it, then you can do that. But you definitely don't want to add too much, because then it's too late to take it out when you're mixing it. Now normally at this point, this is when I would put this inside of my trail cup and use the bag as a liner so that I don't make a mess and I just eat it out of there. But let's take a look and see how this comes out, to give you an idea. Of course, I'm going to lose a little bit in the transfer. But you can see this is probably about a half a cup's worth now that it's done. And that was with the size of the sheet that I used. So if you want to have a bigger portion, then you can just use more of the sheet when it comes out of the dehydrator. This is the time that you would be adding the nuts and the raisins to the mix if you want to consume it that way on the trail. But let's just give this a try and see how it came out right now. You can see it clings to the spoon and it's not too runny. But let's give it a taste. It's got that nice little cinnamon and ginger kick to it. It's delicious. During the day while I'm on the move, I'll usually have some of the fruit rolls, and that helps keep me going. And believe it or not, it has such a different texture to it that it doesn't make it so that you get boring by then having this at night when you have a meal. It's just a really good and interesting way to mix it up and yet use the same thing to pull double duty. We've gone through our list of ingredients, specialized equipment, cooking instructions, and instructions for dehydration and rehydration of your applesauce in the field. We even discussed toasting walnuts so that they'll have a delicious additional component. A couple of key things to remember. When you're preparing the walnuts, just toast them until they're a nice golden brown and they release that delicious aroma. You don't want to burn them. When rehydrating, you can always add more water if you need to later, but you can't take it away if you add too much. So just do part of it, test it out, and then see if you need to add more after that. I just love this stuff, and I think you will too. See you next time.